Welcome to Prep Station UTME Government. Today we'll be looking at some topics, and these are the line of topics we'll be looking at. First on our list is Constitution and Constitutionalism. Secondly, we have Structure and Organization of Government. We'll be looking at the Legislature, Executive, and Judiciary. Then we have citizens' rights, duties and obligations of an individual in a state. Then we have pre-colonial political systems in Nigeria, then colonial administration, nationalism, constitutional development in Nigeria, pre-independence constitution, military rule in Nigeria, and finally we'll be looking at Nigeria's foreign policy. All right, let's go. Now, what is Constitution? This is an SS1 topic, or Year 10 topic, as you may call it, first term. So when we talk about Constitution, it simply means the whole body of rules, laws, regulations, customs, convention, judicial precedents, name them, that governs a particular country. Nigeria has a constitution, you know, the 1999 constitution, yes? And the constitution therefore specifies the work, the duties and functions of all government, or every activity of government. If you go through the 1999 constitution, you see it's stated clearly the functions, the positions, the duties of the president, the duties of the vice president, the duties of the governors, the judiciary, the legislature, name it. All their activities are stated in the Constitution. Okay. It also talks about the rights and duties of citizens of a country. Okay, now we've looked at Constitution. Now, what is constitutionalism? They sound alike, but they are not the same thing. Constitution is the whole body of law, while constitutionalism is adhering to that law. The government officials ruling according to the precepts of the Constitution. That is what constitutionalism is all about. It says constitutionalism is strict adherence to or compliance with the provisions of the Constitution. It's saying that the president must carry out activities that befits him as the president. His functions as the president must be according to how it is stated in the Constitution. Like it says in the beginning part, strict adherence or compliance with the provisions of the Constitution. So what the Constitution does is, the Constitution is a guide. The constitutionalism is saying, follow the Constitution. Follow the Constitution. Constitution, the guide. Constitutionalism, you must follow the Constitution. So that is what it's all about. It says here, it says, the rulers and the ruled abide by the provisions of the Constitution. Constitutionalism is a means of checking the tyrannical and autocratic tendencies of the executive arms of government. If constitutionalism does not exist, government will do as they please. So what constitutionalism does is to check the activities so that power is not abused, that government will rule according to the Constitution. Hope we understand. Okay. And it also tells the arms of government, you know the arms of government, the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, what they are supposed to do. You don't go outside the Constitution. You must follow it strictly. Okay. Now let's look at, we just have two differences between the Constitution and constitutionalism. Constitution is a written document, yes. It's a written document created by the government with the participation of the civil society. Who is the civil society? You and I happens to be the civil society. Now, why constitutionalism is a principle and a system of governance. You see the word System of governance. I want you to take note of this. System of governance. Just take note of this word. System of governance, telling you that it is telling the government how it should rule, that respects the rule of law and limits the powers of the government. I like this part. The rule of law. You shouldn't abuse power that has been given to you and restrict their activities so that power is not being abused. Then constitutionalism says it is based on the principles. It is based on the principles that has been outlined in the Constitution or in other legal documents. So these are the things you need to take note of. So that why do we, like I said earlier on, why do we have constitutionalism? Is to prevent abuse of power. Take note of this. The whole essence of constitutionalism is to make sure government does not abuse power. That is the essence. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay, we have our first question. Constitutionalism means dash. You see, respect for the Constitution, like I said, is to make sure that government does not abuse power. Take note of this. Let's go to our next question. Okay, we have a question. A written constitution must contain dash. Now let's go back to when you learned written constitution. Remember, written constitution is in a single document. Yes, Nigeria practices a rigid and a written constitution. A written constitution is that constitution that takes a lot of procedures for it to be amended. Yes, you may need a referendum before it's been amended. So that is a written constitution. Now, a written constitution, is it dialogue? No. Is it discourse? No. A written constitution must have a preamble. Very important. It must have a preamble. So that is the answer. A constitution of any country is basically dash. Now, why we have a constitution is to have a guide of how government is to rule, how government is to carry out its function. That is why we have a constitution. So the answer is B, a guide to how the country should be governed. That is the essence of a constitution. Now let's look at number 4. It says, the principles that advocate strict adherence to the fundamental laws of the country. You know that already. Constitutionalism, we've talked about it. Constitutionalism is the answer. C. 5. Constitution formulated and imposed on a country without popular participation is said to be created by dash. Now, popular participation, that means the citizens, people putting up their own input, giving their several opinions. Now, if the answer is decree, this happens in a military regime. They carry out decrees. So they are not seeking for people's opinion. They created it and they imposed it on the people. So the answer here is D, decree. Okay, and number 6 question says, which of the following is the source of a country's constitution? If you go back to the sources of constitution, history of the people, remember, judicial precedents, remember all that. So, judicial injunction is the answer. B, not mandamus. Neither is it political decisions or executive order. Okay, let's go to number 7. It says, a constitution specifies dash, the dash. Now, if you go through the features of a constitution or the characteristics of a constitution, there are some things that are very important. It's not religious belief of the people, no. It's not state of mind either. It's not movement of the people. It is modus operandi. And what's the meaning of modus operandi? Modus operandi, what is the meaning? Modus operandi means mode of operation. Mode of operation. That's the meaning of modus operandi. The mode of operation, what the Constitution entails. How does it function? So that is the answer. C, modus operandi. Take note of that. Okay, let's go to number 8 question. It says, constitutions have been classified as rigid or as flexible. Yes, this question looks a bit confusing. They are putting two opposites together. Rigid is the opposite of flexible. Now let's go back to the types of constitution we have. You know, we have the rigid constitution, the written constitution, the flexible constitution, the unwritten constitution. You know that. Now let's do this. When you talk about the rigid constitution, rigid, written, then you have the flexible, the unwritten. Something should go to your mind. Something should tell you that these two go together. So the answer here is not whether they were written or unwritten. No. It is not popular or unpopular. It is not relative ease. Rather, it's those two here. Difficulty and ease of the amending process. They are two opposites. Difficulty goes for the rigid, while the ease goes for the flexible. I took time here to explain so that when you see such questions, you're not confused. They are trying to tell you that these two, like I said earlier on, they are opposites. They are opposites. So take note of this. Take note of this. Okay, let's go to the next question. Let's go to the next question. Number 9. It says constitutionalism means dash. Constitutionalism means dash. I hope you know that all those questions are all JAMB questions. So when you see some of them repeating themselves in different forms, they are all JAMB past questions. It says constitutionalism means dash. The answer is C, like we said earlier on, strict adherence. That's the key word here. Strict adherence to, so that is the answer, strict adherence. So that's what constitutionalism means. Okay, let's continue. Number 10. This is our last question for constitution and constitutionalism. It says a constitution is said to be rigid if it is dash. A constitution is said to be rigid if it is dash. Now, what are the features of a constitution that is rigid? It is cumbersome, has cumbersome provisions for its amendment. Before it can go through any form of amendment, it must seek. It's not an easy task. So the answer is D. It is not A. It is not B. It is not C. Cannot be amended by the executive. No, the answer is D. The answer is D. Okay, now we have come to the end of this topic, constitution and constitutionalism. Constitution and constitutionalism. Just a brief wrap-up. When you hear constitution, we're talking about rules, laws, principles that governs a country. When you hear of constitutionalism, it simply means strict adherence, how government is supposed to rule according to the Constitution to avoid abuse of power. So these are the things you should take note of. Thank you. All right, let's go to our next topic. We're looking at meaning of legislature. What do we call this in government? The organs of government, you remember? Or the arms of government. Yes, the organs or the arms of government. The first one here is the legislature. The legislature. Now, when we talk about the legislature, one of the basic responsibility, the basic functions, when you see these questions, please don't, they can even list, in fact, some options used to have different functions of the legislature. Don't get confused. What they are asking you, what is their basic function? And the basic function simply means lawmaking. Lawmaking. Lawmaking is their basic function. Please take note of this. Lawmaking. It says legislature can be defined as an organ of government responsible for the making of laws, which not only give backings to the government policies, but also guide interaction between government and the governed. So the basic function of the legislature is what? Lawmaking. The legislature is also referred to as the parliament. As a parliament. In Nigeria, we have two legislative arms. You know them. We have the House of Rep, the House of Representative, the federal, let's put it properly, the federal House of Rep. Then we have the Senate, yes, the Senate. We have 109 Senate. We have 360 federal House of Rep members in Nigeria. Please take note of this. 360 federal House of Representative members in Nigeria. So take note of this. Now, how in the Senate, each state has 3 senators. Each state has 3 senators. Then, for Abuja has only 1 senator. So when you do the mathematics, 3 times 36, you have 108 plus 1, making it 109. Each state in Nigeria has 3 senators. Only Abuja, that has the Federal Capital Territory, that has only 1 senate. Let's go for a short break. We'll be back shortly. So hope to see you there.